Luster can be classified as metallic, submetallic, or non-metallic. Metallic lusters are the easiest to identify, and a great example in my particular rock and mineral kit is number 12, chalcopyrite. So as we move chalcopyrite around under the light, we see how the light reflects off of its surfaces. And that is the definition of luster, how the light reflects off the surface. And in chalcopyrite, we see a very metallic sheen reflecting off of that surface, and this is very characteristic of a metallic luster. You'll know that you'll have a metallic luster in your mineral because the way that the light reflects off of it, it tells you that it contains metal, if that makes sense. Another great example is number 22 with pyrite. Now this is unique to my kit. Your sample of pyrite may look completely different. It may not be as shiny. It may not be as reflective. But metallic lusters, when you move them around under the light, that's the key. You have to move them around under a bright light, and that reveals what type of luster it has. And here for our pyrite, we just see that almost glittery gold type of reflection, and that lets us know that we are dealing with a metallic luster. Now there is a type of metallic luster called submetallic luster, and it's about like it sounds. It is a mineral that had a metallic luster that has since tarnished. And in my rock and mineral kit, Galena shows that submetallic luster. There are portions of it that still have that bright reflective metal-like appearance when we move it around under the light. But for the most part, this mineral has oxidized and it has become rather dull. And that is indicative of a submetallic luster. Now, metallic lusters and submetallic lusters will only be possessed by metallic minerals. Now, here's an interesting example, and this is number 15. This is hematite. Hematite is a metallic mineral. So this particular sample of hematite has been oxidized so heavily that its metallic luster has degraded from metallic to submetallic, now down to a point where there's hardly any metallic nature to this particular sample. So when we get to this point for a metallic mineral, you could say that this is submetallic because it is technically a metallic mineral. Or you could just say, hey, this is a non-metallic luster, and you could call it something like earthy or a dull luster. You wouldn't be wrong going either route for this one. Now, for the non-metallic lusters are the types of lusters that non-metallic minerals possess, and there are different ways to classify the non-metallic lusters. Here is number 2. This is gypsum. And again, your gypsum may look completely different, but we see a very nice bright reflection off the surface of this particular sample. And I would call that a vitreous luster. Vitreous is a way to describe a glass-like luster. And if you're wanting to see an example of vitreous luster, grab number 7. Number 7 is quartz, and quartz is basically the textbook example of a vitreous luster. Now, the two samples that you will most likely have the most questions about as far as determining their lusters are 23 and 24. Now, 23 and 24 are both micas. We have muscovite on the left and biotite on the right. Now, both of these are non-metallic minerals. Even though they are bright and flashy under the light, these are both technically non-metallic lusters. If you take a close look, you'll be able to see almost a pearlescence to the muscovite, and so you could call that a pearly luster. In my particular sample, it's a little bit sharper than a pearly luster, so I would probably go for a vitreous on this one. Now for biotite, biotite is the one, because it is a dark colored mica, it makes you think that it might be metallic, but it's not. The darker color simply means we've got a nicer surface for light to reflect off of. And for biotite, again, we could have a little bit of a pearly luster in some of these areas where we've got some fractures developing. That just is another area for light to reflect a little more easily. But overall, this would probably be a vitreous luster. So take a look at the examples on this page in the lab module to see all of the different types of non-metallic lusters and see how many you can find in your rock and mineral kit samples.